Welcome to the Sons of Liberty podcast, coming to you from the Liberty Tree Studio in San Antonio, Texas, where we discuss topics of the day, firearms, great food, and even better whiskey. Grab a drink, sit down with your host, the founding daddies, Mike Mahalski and Kyle Grothus.
All right, we're on here at the Sons of Liberty podcast with Ryan Williams, our very good friend. Mike's very good friend for years, even before we started Sons of Liberty, I believe, right?
Yeah, dude, I was the best man in Ryan's wedding, dude.
That's right.
God, it feels like forever, man.
So Ryan, you're a I don't know if retired's the right word. Former Navy SEAL. You started multiple businesses, Forged Clothing, Demon Bells. Current owner of Industry Threadworks. I'm sure I'm missing some. I know you've done a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah, a lot of stuff that didn't work, and a few things that did work. So it's been a journey for sure.
Is Demon Bell still around?
I think it is, man. But the guy immediately drove it into the ground. I learned so many lessons from that thing. Number one is like vet your buyer, which I didn't. I was just happy to get the check. And yeah, I should have sold it to On It, and I sold it to some random dude, and he just like completely crushed the brand. I offered to buy it back from him. He's like, no, I got it. I'm like, bro, I'm seeing what you're posting. Like, you do not got it. It's terrible. So I think it eventually dissolved, but yeah, it's a fun company, but yeah, it didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, I still have all of my old original Forged shirts, man.
Nice.
I don't fit in any of them, but I do remember. I remember being there at the inception of that stuff, man. And dude, the drink, fight, fuck, dude. I still think that was like the coolest shirt ever made. And I'm pretty sure that like everyone that did it since, I think they ripped it off from y'all.
Maybe, man. I mean, we thought it was super cool at the time. In fact, like Forge went through 3 name variations, and the first name we came up with was Drink, Fight, Fuck. And it only lasted a couple days before we're like, yeah, it's probably not gonna have a lot of carryover. We're probably gonna position ourselves pretty bad at this. This is also like 2007, the height of affliction. So it's like, you know, it was a good idea to play with, but I'm glad we ended up changing that. We changed it to Knox after that, and then we got into a scuffle with another company that was a little more advanced than us, bigger than us at the time, because everybody was bigger than us at the time. And we're like, dude, we need to either fight these guys later on or change our name. And we changed our name, and Mike came up with it, and Forge ended up being a way better name than any of our previous stuff anyway. So it all worked out in the end, way better than we could have planned it.
No, considering the origins, dude. Yeah, I mean, Forged was perfect. You know, that was.
Yeah, he actually got it off his Hell Week shirt. Is the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fires. And he came out. I remember we were drinking, because of course we're always drinking at the time. And we're like, we were consumed. You know, as in your starting business, like it just consumes you. So we're drinking, and we got this big issue about changing our name. And we're already like 15 grand in the product, and we're like, dude, what the hell are we gonna do? And he's like, I got it. He comes out of his room with his Hell Week t-shirt, like, the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fires. It's forged. I'm like, bro, that's really good. Right. That was it.
You just know when you got it, right?
Stupid, what's that?
So you just know when you got it. When you hear it, you're like, that's fucking it.
Yeah, especially when you mess around with like names that you're like, it's not quite there. It's not quite there. And then you hear the one, you're like, that's it.
Yeah.
We didn't. I mean, you and Glenn had kind of already thought of Sons of Liberty, the name, before we even met. And we never had to fight about a name. Like logos, we did. It took us a little while to get the logo right. Like I came up with all sorts of dumb shit that we never ended up using, and it was always kind of plays on the Rebellious Stripes flag. That's always been from the beginning until we found the Angry Patriot logo. That's the logo part for us is what. It was pretty quick. I mean, the first couple months, but that's what we had to figure out was the symbology. What's the symbology there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, man, like the one. I mean, I've heard this for years and years and years. Like the logo is really, really strong. It's like, boom, and like that's been cool. And I think it resonates well, and it's at this point it's immediately identifiable anywhere. I mean, it's pretty cool. Dude, so I remember whenever you sold Demon Bells. What did you roll into after that? Besides that Lamborghini?
Yeah. Well, that was because I built and sold, I think that was the third or fourth company that I'd sold because I sold my half of Forge to one of our employees in 2012.
Ryan
And that was like
Starr.
5 years. The what?
Ryan Starr.
Yeah, that's right. Fake last name. God. Good
Everyone
business
thought
guy,
that
but
was you for a long
good
time.
human. Dude, well, that's because he pretended to be me. Like, I would go out
There's
to
a reason for
bars and
that.
he'd be like, "Weren't you just here last week?" And it was literally a guy pretending to be me. It was super odd situation, but he turned out to be a really good business guy. So he ended up bringing that brand up. So anyway, weird situation, but yeah, I ran that brand for like 5 years. Then sold my half to Ryan, who was one of our employees, and then started Disciples of Iron, was another clothing line.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Sold
about
that
that.
to sold that to Buddy, and then yeah, the kettlebell company, and that was a. I'm never going to start a company like that again. Like it was cool, it was fun. I'm glad I did it, but dude, manufacturing and shipping hunks of metal across the country is just like it's such a logistically difficult company to run.
No.
I was really, yeah,
Dude, how did you even
yeah,
how did you even fucking ship? How do you ship a kettlebell? Like, do you have to put it in a fucking crate, or does it
very
go on its own,
carefully.
wrapped in
Yeah, well,
plastic, or
that's a
what?
whole other thing. It's like I got the product and it was good, but then I'm like, how do I ship this thing? So I had to buy like, a $5,000 expanding foam machine, and then it took like $3,000 worth of foam every 6 months. And I had this fulfillment company in Massachusetts that was doing this stuff, and just constant problems, man. Which at the time I was still relatively new to business, so it's like, you know, there shouldn't be any problems. Why are there problems? Not realized now. I realized, 17 years into it, like, oh man, there's always problems. There's always going to be problems. If there's not problems, if I'm not aware of the problems, that's what really makes me scared because it means there's problems that I don't know about. But yeah, it was good, man. It was fun. It grew it. Um, Met a lot of cool people. Was really heavily involved in CrossFit at the time. And Dave Castro really helped out. Put him in the final of the CrossFit Games and gave us a big shout out. Which at the time I thought, shoot, fuck yeah, I'm gonna make $1 million. But as we all know, it's like I sold like 15 grand that day, which is great. And I sold like 5 grand the next day, and then it was just crickets again. So it was cool, got a lot of attention, very unique product, but very difficult. And then ended up just positioning for sale. But one interesting thing that we did learn out of that's been very useful was that we had a cool brand and it was a unique product, and it was people were excited about it because it was for people that don't know, it was faces on a kettlebell essentially, but like a Spartan helmet and some of the other ones. This is before On It did it, and so we're kind of first to market in that, and but our margins were terrible because our best selling bell sold for $125, but it cost me 85 to even make that bell.
Ooh, yeah,
So
that's
if I
tight.
wanted to make $40, I had to spend 85. Getting the inventory is a huge issue. Like it was just a lot of logistics issues. But I was like, dude, this is a really cool brand. People love it. Like, what else can I do with what we've created? And we came up with some keychains, like we kettlebell keychains and little kettlebell earrings and necklaces. And the keychains were crazy good. They're very unique, like a patinaed, kind of like antique silver
I think
look.
I
So
still
they
have
look
one,
rad,
dude.
and they're little like kettlebells, like a Spartan kettlebell with a face on it. And those sold like crazy. We actually made way more money on our keychains than we did on the kettlebells. And it was fantastic because I mean, I'm into this keychain for like $2.50. I'm selling it for $16 plus $4 shipping. So basically $20 for this $2.50 thing, 800% markup on it. I can fit 500 of them in a shoebox. If a customer doesn't like it or wants a return, I just ship them another one. A much easier product to basically have a business around. Um, yeah, so now we've transferred that over into so many other things where like your main product doesn't need to be your main money maker. In fact, when I was going back and looking about what I do differently, I would have actually lowered the price of the bell. So we're basically almost break even on the kettlebells just to get more people, get them in more people's hands, and then focus on all the external stuff, all the accessory products where we have like actually really good margins. They're easier to ship, they're easier to store, they're easier to handle returns and exchanges on. And that's how I was going to grow the company. I ended up selling it before I could execute on any of that. But yeah, these are all things I told the the new owner, and he did none of it.
Not making keychains anymore.
Yeah, he didn't do anything, man. I was surprised too. I was surprised how many people were so religious about the name, because the name was Demon Bells, and we'd have people calling up with like, I love your product, but I can never purchase it because it's possessed. I'm like, but I'm pretty sure it's not possessed.
You should have done it with
that would be extra.
You should have started a sister company, Jesus Bells, and put Jesus's face on one.
Right.
Work out with Christ.
So, yeah, I bought I think Warrior Bells, what I was going to change it to. So I bought the domain, bought all the stuff, and transferred it over. But yeah, once again, the guy just didn't do anything with it, which sucks too, because like the company's your baby, and you hand it off, and you want to see it grow and flourish, and they just throw it in the trash. It's fucking.
Dude, no one steal this idea, but we need to start one called Church Bells. There we go. And we start putting like saints' faces on them and stuff. You're like, the only thing heavier than your guilt is our kettlebells.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's so a lot in Texas, man.
That's pretty good. So now what are you, what, I mean, obviously for the people that don't know, all of our merch, like our t-shirts and all of that kind of, if it's cool and it comes from us, Ryan makes it, right? So Ryan owns Industry Threadworks, and he makes all the Sons of Liberty merch. He probably makes merch for a lot of companies out there that, you know, if you're watching this podcast, I promise you're wearing something made by Ryan one way or the other. You know,
I've been in his warehouse. I've seen some of the stuff you make.
Right,
yeah. If you're a dude somewhere between like, you know, 18 and like 40, and you're into like guns or America or rock and roll or something, you're probably wearing something Ryan made. You know?
Yeah, we for sure have a t-shirt in the closet right now. But it's been fun, man. So I sold the kettlebell company, and that was the first company I sold that gave me enough money to like okay, I can take a step back and, you know, figure out what I want to do. It wasn't a life-changing amount of money, but it was enough to like, you know, take a break and try to elevate and see what I want to do in the bigger picture. I still had a day job too. I still worked as an SQT instructor in a GS position in the Navy SEAL pipeline. So I built and sold 3 companies while I was still an employee from the government. So I wasn't like I still had a safety net. And then that was 2014, and I had some time, and I'm like, dude, okay, what's my skill set? What's my experience? What can I do with this? Who can I help? Like, what am I going to do next? And it just happened to be that, you know, most of my experience is in apparel. And I was like, okay, well, I could probably help people navigate this space. Because even when I was at Forged, like anybody who's listening, if you've ever done apparel or you've had shirts printed, they're usually fucked up on some level. Like at least 50% of the time, it's like it's in the wrong place, or it's a little crooked, or it's the wrong color, or it's the wrong blanks, or there's something that's messed up with it on a certain level. And so a lot of our friends who had businesses were coming to us and like, hey man, we're trying to get shirts made, and it's a huge pain in the ass. Can you guys make them for us? And so I would always just do it as kind of like the homie hookup and help them out with this stuff. So I've been doing this since like 2007 with Forged. And I sold a lot of other companies. I'm like, well, that might be kind of cool. Maybe I can do that. And it was actually another company. I've been working with a few brands, but nothing like, you know, really big. And I was talking with another friend of mine. It wasn't a friend yet, but I saw this cool brand online, and I went to go order a shirt. And just the process was like unbelievable, dude. It's like I kept trying to order and kept kicking me off, and it was like this loop of like I couldn't sign in, but it wouldn't let me sign in. And finally, I just messaged the guy. I'm like, hey man, like I'm trying to buy one of your shirts, but like this process is like really terrible. Like, and I was like, hey man, if I'm the only asshole that's telling you this, like I'm just an idiot, and it's my problem. Like no big deal. But if you're getting other messages like this, like there are things that you can do to fix this. And like, you know, not to toot my own horn here, but I have significant experience in clothing brands, and I'm happy to like kind of guide you through some of the solutions that we've applied and help you do it. So he reached out, we became really good friends. We helped him grow that from like 100,000 annually to like 4.5 million in a few years, and it worked out really well. So that was kind of like proof of concept. Like, can I actually take these concepts that I've learned and then apply them to other businesses? And it was cool, really, really great experience. We don't work with that client anymore, but it was definitely very useful at the time. I learned a lot about kind of working with clients is different than working with customers, and it's different than working with a partner, and it's different than when you're making the decisions yourself too. Like we work very closely with a lot of our clients. Like some of our bigger clients now are similar type brands, like military type brands, and some of them are really cool and really great to work with. Like Kevin from SafTac, phenomenal human, great brand. He's like just a great dude. And we were just at his wedding in Ireland. Like he's a legit good friend, and he's also a good business guy too. Some of the other clients we work with, though, like super obvious problems, and I'm like, hey man, here's the problem. Like here's a solution. Why don't you just do this? And like, no, we're not going to do that. And it's basic stuff. I'm like, hey, I did an analysis of your stuff. This product that you have is 25%. When it's in stock, it's 25% of your total revenue. And they're like, oh, we can't afford to restock it. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? It's 25% of your revenue. Like, you can't afford not to restock this, dude. This is why you're not making any money, because you don't have it restocked. And it's just super frustrating when you know what the answer is, but you can't get the person to actually do it. So I don't know, man. It's been a long road, but it's also been super cool because we work with some really cool people. We know almost everybody in the apparel space. Whether we work with them or not, is here or there. But I mean, at this point, there's very few people in the apparel space that we don't like know personally or haven't had some kind of conversation with. So we end up as a hub for a lot of these problems because we solve problems for our clients. So like they'll tell us a lot of stuff they can't tell the public. So we become a hub of information and solutions. So when people come us with a problem, we're like, hey, we saw this work over here. Here's how it might apply to your business. Why don't you try doing this or this app or this tactic or whatever? And it's been super useful. It's been fun.
Let me ask, man.
But
oh, go ahead.
yeah, we ran into a major problem a couple of years ago, though, we can go in a bunch of different directions. But I've got a ton of stories about how I fucked up a lot of things. So that's how I learned.
Actually, I would love to get into mistakes, man, because like that really is like the greatest tuition of all time. Like like mistakes really are where you learn a lot about your process, and then how fast you can identify that something's wrong and then act upon it.
Yeah.
Like that's something I see a lot of places is that like something is clearly broken, and then you immediately, once you have a better answer, you should be able to execute a solution immediately. Like you don't need months to like not treat the gunshot wound, But
Right.
but what I was going to ask them, man, because I do have a lot of friends that have wanted to start I get this question all the time. I mean, we're not an apparel company, but I don't think I've been in an airport in the last couple of years where I haven't seen like a Sons Liberty hat or T-shirt or something somewhere, like at an event. It's really cool, and I still walk all the way over and shake that person's hands. I'm legitimately grateful to see like a Suns shirt or something, in the
Yeah.
But dude, I will say, if we had to start today, I don't think we could have done it, only because when we started Suns, and this is like 2014 timeframe. Back then, if you had 10,000 followers, 10,000 people saw your post, right? The social media was the Wild West. You could kind of do whatever you want. I mean, every video that you posted would get thousands of views, or up to however many. As a matter of fact, you and I used to talk about this. The definition for viral was like if it went like a multiple over the number of followers you had. So like you could consider a video viral at 10,000 views if you only had 5,000 followers or something, right? Dude, right now, you do a lot of work with the online marketing and digital space, dude. Everyone knows that the algorithm has changed. Can you explain a little bit what has changed in the algorithm and like how to capitalize that for people starting today, or even companies like us that would like to just be more effective at it, dude?
Yeah, for sure. Because like starting Forge in 2007, I mean that's before Facebook was even around. Like MySpace was the main drag. So social media, and even that was only like 4 years old. So social media literally didn't exist in the way that it does now back then. But it was interesting because the dynamic back then, it was way harder to start an apparel line, but it was a lot easier to scale once you were started. But now it's reverse. So it's so easy to start an apparel line, but it's so much harder to get scale. Partly because it's so easy to start that everybody has one. So it's really hard to break out of that get escape velocity from the chaff of just the random apparel line. So like people aren't really serious about it, but it's a little traction, it's taking up your feed, and it's just a mess until you get to a certain level. It's usually about $1 million in gross that like a brand really has trajectory. And there's a lot of variables to that. But starting brands before and then starting modern brands now, it's completely different and inverse in a lot of ways. But one of the major things we notice is that, and we notice it's not just in my brand, but in a lot of the clients' brands we work with, where they're still trying to do tactics that worked 3 to 4 years ago, and that they just don't work anymore. And so
Can you give me
they're
an
getting
example, dude?
discouraged.
Give me an example, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you used to be able to be relatively profitable acquiring a new customer, right? So they pay an agency would do the ads, and ads used to have an agency to do this because it was pretty difficult to get like the audience segmenting correct and to get your stuff in front of the right people and to know what to put out there. Um, and so you need an agency. So an agency is going to charge usually a month retainer plus a percentage of ad spend. And so, but if they're good, you could reasonably be profitable acquiring a new customer if you have like 3 to 4 by return on ad spend. And so now you can grow profitably. The problem we're at now is the iOS changes, probably like 2 to 3 years ago, the iOS changed. And so I'm not technical enough to know how it actually works. I just know that none of the companies we work with are profitable acquiring a new customer.
So that's
So
what
the
I
problem
wanted.
with that is,
No, I was just
sorry,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
I wanted to, it's like just to make sure that like for the people that are really interested in this stuff, myself included, this is being understood. The ad technique right now, you're going to lose money on the acquisition of a new client. That's not how you monetize that new client. It's not on the acquisition because you're like it's going to cost you
Exactly.
money to get that client. Like you'd be
Yeah,
if you
you're
broke if
lucky
you
if you get
broke
break
even
even.
on the acquisition, that's a home run,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So so basically knowing that now it's a different environment. So a lot of these brands, they they stopped doing that. So a lot of these brands have their revenue's been crushed by like 70% in some cases. And a lot of them just don't know what to do. And the problem is like we're looking at a bunch of different brands. We've kind of identified what our theory. The problem is that about $1 million in total revenue, that gives you enough money where you can hire people to do all the things you need doing. And so a modern brand, the way that it works is like you need to acquire new customers, hopefully at break even. But the problem is you also need to have an email campaign set up. You have to have an SMS campaign set up. You have to have all these other things in place. You have to have content creation. You have to have social media presence on multiple platforms. So it's a lot of bandwidth. It's a lot of work. So typically a successful brand will need at least one person, probably better off two, maybe three, that are handling that. But if you're not $1 million brand at 25% net, like you don't have the money to hire these people. So there's a lot of brands that are sitting in the low six-figure space and they're doing okay. They just don't have the money to hire somebody to take them to the next level. So all these brands that were below $1 million, they're basically stuck below a million. The ones that are above a million, they have the they have
The
the profit
horsepower,
in
if you
there.
will, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. To hire people to do all this stuff. Because what we're seeing is that if a brand is not profitable acquiring a new customer, then they have to focus on the average order value, the AOV, and the lifetime value or long-term value. Basically how
Return customers.
essentially they're trying to sell the same person. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's so many fucking concepts trying to put together. But there's only three ways to make more money in a business. You find more people to sell to, you sell the same people more products, or you raise your prices. Everything is just a variation of those three things. So if we're stuck that like, hey, we're not going to make money acquiring a new customer, that means we have to, and your prices are pretty much, maxed out at what you can reasonably charge. Your only option is to sell that same customer more products. So that's more average order value in your cart. So bundling's been huge. Oh, give me a bubble. All right.
What the fuck
Bundling's
was
been
that?
huge. I don't know. I just got emojis turned
Wow.
Fucking AI, man. Jesus.
Yeah. And then and LTV, so like how often that person orders is huge. That's where the email campaigns come in and the SMS campaigns come in. And dude, it's been savage out there, dude. A lot of these clothing brands that were doing good, they were teetering at like, 750,000 and they were set and they were happy. Dude, they're really struggling right now, man. But a lot of the ones that are a million, they're, I mean, everybody's struggling in the apparel space right now, but they're maintaining, and some of them are even growing. So it's definitely like we're seeing a strong pattern. But the thing is, you can't do one of it. You know what I mean? Like you have to have all these pieces in place. Otherwise, you might as well not do all of it.
Content
because,
creation, new customer
yeah,
acquisition, and then the ability to follow up with that customer with SMS and email, because that's the only way to like develop that customer over time. Like
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you just do one, you're eventually going to run out of money. So and we tried this because we've been in B2B space just as a manufacturer for brands for about 10 years now. And about a year and a half ago, I was like, dude, we're going to switch to direct to consumer, not switch, but we're going to make a direct to consumer D2C like offering. We're going to start treating the brand like an apparel brand and do photo shoots and do cool stuff and just kind of show people what we can do. Because one of the biggest problems I had is that a lot of our clients weren't listening to us. I'm like, bro, I'm right about what I'm saying, but I built my first brand so long ago. A lot of them didn't even know about it. So they're like ignoring me. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I have to go back and rebuild this thing and show them like, here's how you build $1 million brand, and just here's the fucking game plan. Go do it. So with that, we're realizing that there's parts of it. I mean, things are the same and things are different, but you can't do one piece of it. Because I was doing advertising about a year ago, and it wasn't working because we didn't have the email and SMS piece plugged in. Then we had the email and SMS piece plugged in, but not the advertising. And it's just dumping money on stuff. Like there's no point in doing any of it unless you do all of it. It's like running a car. Like you need the fuel system, you need the electrical system, you need everything to run together. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So it's been interesting, but also been super fun, dude. Because like the B2B side is great because we get to work with so many cool clients and learn so much, but it's not very creative. But the D2C side is fun, man. Like I get to be creative again. I get to come out with cool things that, my wife tells me are stupid. I'm like, no, they're cool. Just nobody knows about it yet,
Dude, I've seen that too, man. There's like, there's a, not everyone will get your sense of humor, but for the people that actually get it, they really get it. And like that's the thing, like that sometimes it's hard to communicate. That's like you can't make something that appeases everyone, but if you make something that really appeases like like-minded folks, dude, like they really get it. And like that's the I think that's kind of like the like how to grow a cult part 1. Like
yeah, and it's weird little things too that we picked up. Like one brand we're working with, they didn't have any 3 or 4XL. They just went up to 2XL, which was a strategy that Abercrombie & Fitch used to use.
They don't want fat people wearing their clothes.
Yeah, they didn't sell anything above XL, so it became known as like the Abercrombie & Fitch strategy. But they had a different market, and they didn't offer any 3 or 4XL. And I was like, hey guys, like, why don't we start offering this and see what it does? And the 3 and 4XL ended up being 7% of the total sales. And the thing about like the bigger guys that are wearing those sizes too, a lot of brands don't carry 3 and 4XL. So when they see a brand they like, they're used to being like, fuck, I bet these guys don't carry my size. Oh, it's gonna be so disappointing. And then they internalize it and everything. So when they see a brand they like that has their size, dude, they're in love with that brand. They become the biggest evangelists for that brand because they feel seen and heard by just offering a t-shirt in their size, a 3 or 4XL.
Yeah, we added 3XL and then eventually 4 in a lot of them, and I never thought about it that way. That they can't find shirts, cool stuff.
It's hard to find cool shit in those sizes. It really is.
Yeah, and it's not an insignificant amount of your revenue. I mean, if you're talking about 7% of your total revenue, that's not insignificant. Like you would feel that if you lost it.
No, on our especially 3X is a big seller. 4X less so. We bring in a few. I think probably know our mix when we bring stuff in more than I do, but 3X is pretty solid seller for us. I mean, there's guys that are just jacked. Big dudes,
big boys, man.
Big gun love motherfuckers. I love them,
especially in Texas. Yeah, big old farm boys.
Yeah, big caliber. Yeah.
What's on the brands you deal with? I mean, does anybody go higher than 4X? I mean, do you got brands? I mean, I don't even know if they make how high shirt sizes go, but
it depends. I think like the next level, 6210 is the best selling shirt right now. I think in black that might go up to like 5 or 6 XL. I'd have to check. But yeah, typically 4X is as big as you want to go. I mean, after that size, typically people aren't that mobile, so they're probably not out there shooting that much, you know?
No one will ever see that shirt. You know, there's no marketing benefit to that.
I remember we had to change all our SKUs because as we got to the bigger sizes, you know, when I was making the SKUs, I would just be like XXXL or XXXXXL, and the guys were having to like stop and like really look at it and try to read it, and they're like, "For the love of God, can you just put numbers next to the X?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, all right, fine." I had to go through and change them all to the number 1 and an X and an L.
Yeah,
I have a
it's
question.
the little things that make a big difference, man.
Yeah, they kept making mistakes because they're like, "Is that 3 X's or 4? I can't tell." You know, they have to like look real close.
So completely off topic, man. But like, I wanted to ask this question since you have a unique position. You probably spent more time in one form or another as a BUD/S cadre or instructor than like probably almost any other SEAL in history. Is that fair? That's probably
That's
accurate.
true. Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, I'm the longest, especially consecutive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the longest serving instructor of in the history of naval special warfare, I guess. So like every class from 252 was the first class I taught in third phase. That was I think 2004. And then I left active duty in 2008, and that was class like 273, I think. And then I took a job at SQT as a civilian instructor. So there's some overlap. So I retaught, I think, 271 or 272.
So you got to see your old BUD students in there.
Yeah, totally. And even then, so I went from 272 and I had that job for I think 8.5 years. So I went to class 318. My class was 219. So there's one class below 100 classes. But I was instructor long enough, like a lot of my students came through and they were instructors in my training. A lot of times they were like my bosses too, you know. It was wild, man. But yeah, I learned a lot from that process, dude. A lot about leadership, a lot about humility, and it was really good for me because as a shooter in the team, is like, especially I was just an E5 in the platoon, so like, you know, the 60 gunner or a sniper, so you don't really have a whole lot of responsibility. It's kind of like you have your lane and your shit that you do, and you know, you have some extracurricular stuff that you might do for the platoon. But if you're not in a leadership position of the platoon, there's really not a whole lot of leadership that is asked of you, which is the opposite of being thrust into a training environment like BUD/S, where, I mean, no, it's just training, but a lot of that stuff, dude, I mean, there's a reason dudes die there. Like, it's legit pretty fucking dangerous. And these guys will literally jump off a cliff if you tell them to. And it's very sobering to go from a, you know, coking and joking attitude of the team. It's like, oh, this bullshit, whatever, and you're fucking with people, and then you fuck with the wrong student, they actually jump off a cliff. You're like, oh fuck, dude, I forgot how much power I have here. It's funny because I remember I was wearing the blue and gold, the instructor shirt, for the first time, and I was walking across the grinder, and you're not supposed to walk across the grinder. I was wearing the blue and gold and walking across. I'm like, fucking looking around, kept expecting to get yelled at. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I'm the one in the instructor uniform. Like, this is weird. But yeah, it took me a little bit of time to get accustomed to it. But dude, it was a really good experience. I know a lot of team guys, like, they think, and rightfully so, that like the place is the tip of the spear to go do that, and, you know, be a team guy and be on the cutting edge of what, you know, what you should be doing as a team guy, which is forward deploy and do all the shit. You definitely should do that, but also a lot of guys look down on doing instructor duty as like less than. But I would, if guys have that attitude, I would counter that. If you want to get out eventually and do something in the civilian world, it is a huge, huge asset to go through instructor training, understand how to build a curriculum, how to work within a curriculum, like how BUD/S is structured, how to work with other instructors. And the leadership that you have in there is fucking like life or death. It's crazy. It's not platoon level life or death, but I mean, these guys will literally die for you. Or if you say the wrong thing, they might actually die. And it's
Is it
wild,
possible, dude? Like in all of the students that you've seen come through, man, which, you know, is more than any other human, like, is there any, can you make an accurate guess at first? like who might make it and who's not, or is it completely like just people surprise the fuck out of you, or are they like, you know, is there any identifiable trait off the bat, or like, hey, this dude's got whatever the fuck it is, you know, like.
Yeah, so I taught third phase, so I
By
only worked one
by
heavily.
then they've kind of like by then most of the weeding outs, most of it's done, right?
It's pretty rare to lose a guy at that stage, and the guys you do lose usually are like, bro, this guy should not be here. Like they're kind of a huge piece of shit. They just slip
Yeah,
through the
you're
cracks.
forcing them out at that
So
point.
we just
Yeah.
like widen the cracks and then they slip through, you know. But I, you know, I was an instructor for a long time, and I did hang out and meet a lot of the dudes coming through that hadn't been, you know, to the level that I would see them as an instructor. And dude, I was always surprised about who makes it through and who doesn't. There was no physical trait, there was no mental trait, there was no nothing that I could tell that determined what it was. The one thing that I would say is probably that I see not work out the most is if they're in super good physical shape and they're like super moto about stuff. Because typically what that belies that that person has usually been, you know, a really good athlete. They're probably a star of some level of physical performance. And usually those guys that get to that level are good, but they're just naturally gifted. So they don't have to really work that hard to be that good. They're just genetically that good. But the problem is that Buds does not care about what your capacity is. The requirements of that program are so physically massive that it's going to push you past whatever your capacity is, like way beyond it. So if you haven't been pushed past your capacity, if you haven't been trained to the point where you're like, dude, this sucks, this is miserable, but I'm going to keep going. A lot of those athletes, like the star athletes, are usually the first ones to quit, simply because they've never been pushed that far, that hard before. They've never been uncomfortable for that long. And it was the guys typically that, and this is just my own experience, but typically the guys who are generally pretty competent physically, maybe not top of the class, but not bottom, decent runners, relatively strong. Those guys usually didn't struggle as much with the physical part because they were genetically like, it was still challenging, but it was doable. But also they were used to the challenge because they weren't just incredibly
phenoms, you know, or something.
They had to work to get to the point they were at. So they were usually pretty comfortable with it. But no, man, it's nothing like, oh, if you see this, they're definitely gonna fail. If you see this, they're definitely gonna make it. You never know what somebody has on the inside, man. It's really eye-opening to see how few like really patterns there are in there.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. I mean, I've always found that stuff to be truly fascinating because you start with, like, I mean, the attrition rate. I don't know what it is now, but like, remember when I was like interested in that kind of stuff, the attrition rate was, I think 80% or something, you know, or
yeah, it's typically between, I think, 65 and 80%. But also too, what people don't realize is that's the people that make it to Buds. So if you look at people who like just say you want to be a SEAL and you like go to MEPS,
you go screen, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's probably 20% of those guys even make it to Buds. So it's actually like of the people that go in the Navy and say they want to be a SEAL, man, it is definitely single digits. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would say probably like 5% or something like that. Because in my boot camp class, I think we had like 10 people that wanted to be team guys. And then out of that 10, we had, I think, 3 of us that actually made it to Buds. And me and one other guy are the only guys that graduated.
That's incredible. Yeah.
God, you never know, man. These guys are way better shape than me. I was like 185 pounds at the time. I'm 230. That comes up again. I was 185 pounds at the time. We just, I'm 235 now. And dude, I could run, but I was not strong. Dude, I honestly wouldn't even pass. At the time, I wouldn't have passed the current physical to get in there. Because I could only do like, I think 7 pull-ups or something. And like it's crazy how like the physical parameters now is much harder to get in than when I went through.
It's
when I got in.
Like I know nothing about Buds or any of that stuff. Like I clearly that's so foreign to me. But it's interesting, like the attrition rate for that, whatever that whatever that personality trait is, or whatever. Not that there's necessarily an identifiable personality trait, because I think you could equate it to business too. Like you probably can't tell just from like meeting somebody whether or not they're going to be a successful entrepreneur or they're going to be whatever. I don't know if whatever gets somebody through buds or whatever makes somebody a successful entrepreneur, I don't know if either one of those things can necessarily be taught. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like aggression, or maybe it's being able to like laugh at yourself, or like understand that life is a twisted joke, or be able to like get back up after getting knocked the fuck down. I mean, I'm trying to equate this to like more of like the business and entrepreneurial sense, but like to go out there and like want to conquer, or that sense of conquest, or that sense of like being able to accomplishment for accomplishment's sake, right? Like to just be stubborn enough to do something for the sake of doing it. This is
it's the same
why'd you climb that mountain? Because it was there.
Yeah, why'd you climb that mountain? Because it was fucking there.
It's the same skills I've always told people you see in like really good sales guys, and sometimes it makes them difficult people to put up with, but you can't train someone to go out there and be a good killer sales guy. I've employed quite a few of them over the years in different businesses, and it's really hard to teach that to somebody. And it's kind of like if you find one that's good and is like really driven, is going to go out there and kill it every day just for the sake of it, you kind of got to, work around some other less savory qualities sometimes, mowing people over and stuff, because you can't get someone to do that,
But it's more than financial motivation. There actually is a sense of conquest,
right.
And that's the thing. I think that trait, I don't know. I don't know if they equate. I know it's probably not a 1-to-1 kind of thing, but
No, I absolutely 1,000% agree, dude. Like when I left the teams, and in particular when I left my Department of Defense job teaching SQT, that was 2017, and dude, I was over being around team guys, dude. I was over it. I'm like, dude, fuck you guys. Like, because here's the thing. Have you ever heard of that crab pot mentality?
Say it again.
The crab pot mentality.
Okay.
It's where like you got a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and any one crab could climb out, but they don't, because as soon as one crab gets close to the top, the other crabs come and they pull them back down.
Yeah.
So the crab pot mentality, and this happens a lot. I just noticed it a lot in the SEAL community, because there's a lot of ego in the SEAL community. Like, anybody who's ever met a team guy would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Good hair and high ego. It's typically maybe a book deal, but that's typically like the joke. And it's good in the sense that like you have to have an ego to be able to even try to achieve anything. But the problem is that, like, a lot of these guys, I was just so over dealing with their shit, because they think they know everything, and then I'm trying to tell them from the other side, entrepreneurship side, like talking to team guys that want to get out and do entrepreneurship, and they're just not listening, and they have these wazoo ideas, and I'm like, hey man, like that idea is not going to work, and here's why. And they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, bro, I do know what the fuck I'm talking about, and you will figure it out when you learn. You get out and you fall on your fucking face. So anyway, I was completely fucking arm's length from almost every team guy for years, man. And then I got pretty hardcore into a few pretty high level entrepreneur organizations, and what I realized is like, dude, those guys, and these are like 8, 9, 10 figure entrepreneurs, guys running 100 million and even $1 billion companies, and dude, it's the same mentality. They have the exact same mentality. They looked at the world the same, like high aggression, high drive. But the one thing they had that was different was team guys is that they were willing to look at themselves and know when they were wrong and self-correct and be like, hey, look, I'm going this direction, but fuck, all this shit's telling me it's not working. Like, it's probably not fucking working. And then they correct, right? Those guys they're smart. A lot of those guys, some of them are really like truly brilliant, but a lot of those guys who are really successful, they're really not that fucking smart, or they're definitely not smarter than the average, the average guy. They just do more shit, and they're not afraid of failure. And when they do find themselves on a track that's not working, they just fucking stop and they go back and they do something else. Like, most of the ideas that I've had don't work. I'd say probably 90% of the shit that I try does not work. I just course correct. I'm like, I test a lot of shit. I'm like, okay, none of this works. I find one thing that works. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'll build this out. I'll put some infrastructure behind it, put some money behind it, test it, try to scale it and see if it looks promising. And then, like my wife, Disney, she's the CEO of our company, and she's the one who really brings infrastructure and support and processes to it. And she's like, okay, now we can scale it. But man, it's well over 90% of the shit that I try that does not work.
I've seen
But
that,
that's
like
kind of
even
the
like even on the
entrepreneurship thing.
like the weapons development side, stuff like that, man. I have a big pile of bad ideas, you know, that you can, like that, like yeah, it seemed like a really good idea at first, but like the moment you realize that this widget is not improving upon something or it's not moving,
Get rid of
dude,
it.
done, gone, like on to the next thing. Like the moment you know that, in any minute spent after that, dude, on that same, yeah, it's a fucking waste of time. And that, like, that's the one thing that I see sometimes is, well, you know, we've gone this long, might as well see it through. I'm like, see it, like, to where, like the fucking bottom of the Atlantic, like you know, like, dude, like,
You know, it's funny that
swerve,
happens in
dodge
the creative
that.
space a lot too, right? But it's funny, like the creative part of that as well. Like I do a lot of creative stuff these days and work with a lot of creatives, and even my own stuff where I'm like so front side focused on. I'm like, oh, this is the thing, and I get into it, just absorbed in it, and I pull it out, and I'm like, do I think this is cool, or did I just spend so much time on it that it has to be cool? And then I present it. I'm like, hey guys, what do you think about this? And if everybody hates it, I'm like, yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It doesn't matter how much time you spend on it. If it sucks, it fucking sucks. You know, and it's unfortunate, and it's very hurts your ego. These things that like I thought were awesome, and then turns out they're not awesome. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's how the market speaks to you. You know, it's like we have all these ideas and theories, but the ultimate test is: do other people agree with you? Do other people think? Does the market think that this is cool? Do they think that this has a place in their lives? And if they do, then awesome. Then you have a business. If not, then shit, you really got to change it, because unless you want to just buy everything yourself.
Have you ever
Like,
had to
you
tell
run
a
business.
tell a client that somebody come, you know, because we've had that, you know, customers have come to us like, man, you should make this T-shirt. It's really, really cool. And then like me and Mike look at it, we're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Have you ever had like clients come to you and be like, oh yeah, I got this idea for a clothing company, like this, that, or the other, and you're just like, that's not
Oh yeah,
cool.
I am constantly surprised what does well and what tanks. Like even in my own stuff, I this is all the way back from like Forge days. Like I'd have a design that I thought was like amazing, and I spent so much time on. It's killer. I'm like, bro, look at this, and we launch it, and it was crickets. And then one design that I thought was just like, you know, filler, and it go gangbuster. And it's tough because now I've talked with all our clients. They all have that same experience where they never really know what's hitting, and these are a lot of them like 8-figure apparel brands too, and like they've been around a long time, and they still don't fucking know. You're having a good idea, like you have a better idea than you did, you know, 5 years ago, but it's still not 100%. You still get, you know, dingers, and you still get home runs, and
We get that
it's
too.
not,
I mean, I think on
never
gun
really
parts,
know.
and swag. I mean, we've had stuff like that where like, you know, like I'll use one example. We came out with a new product earlier in the year, which is a toolkit, a punch kit. And we had no idea it was going to be take off, or it was just going to be like, oh, you know, we'll sell a few at the armors classes. Man, we sold the shit out of that thing. Like it was one of those,
Yeah.
it was not a high priority item to get out the door. We completed the project. Well, let's see how it does. You know, I think we ordered 500, and they were like gone, and another 500, and another 500, and it's done really, really well. And I think encouraged us probably to develop more tools going forward. But yeah, we've had stuff like that, and there's other stuff we'll come out with, and we're like, man, this is going to be awesome. We're going to sell the shit out of this, and then like nobody wants it. And like, fuck.
I know, and it's so disappointing too, because like as an entrepreneur, you put your heart and soul into this, you know, and you want to share that with the world, and you want them to be like high five, like fuck yeah, this is awesome. And then they're like, no, that sucks. Like, God damn it, dude. So disheartening, you know. But the thing is, like, the real key to success in entrepreneurship, or pretty much anything in life, is like, is two things. Like, you just gotta, number one, keep going, don't quit, and two, you just don't make the same mistake twice. And if you keep going and you don't make the same mistake twice over a long enough timeline, the only logical result is success, you know. So the only question is like how fast can you reach that point of success, and you know, make less mistakes and less costly mistakes. But yeah, it's not complicated, man. Like business is a lot of work. I mean, it is hard as fuck. It's I think being an entrepreneur is harder than being a SEAL. I think it's definitely harder than buds. But it's not complicated. You know, it's really not complicated. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. But man, it is hard as fuck, dude.
See, I was having this conversation with a buddy the other day, and it's something I've noticed more so than ever after COVID. Like after COVID happened, right? And that is like I'm gonna date myself here how old I am, but I think you could open the Yellow Pages to a random page and fucking point to something, and well, I don't care if it's dry cleaning or whatever that thing is, right? And if you just give a shit just a little bit more than like your competitor, or if you just treat your customer a little bit better than like the other guy, I think in this market you could probably make money at anything as long as you are just a little bit more attentive or supportive than, dude, have you noticed the overall quality of service has gone to absolute shit? Like, I mean, I don't care if you're going to a restaurant, ordering a cup of coffee, trying on a pair of pants, dude. To me, it doesn't matter what it is. But I mean, like, something happened over the last few years to where there is like this almost apathy. There's no attachment to one's work. It's not a generational thing, as I see it with like people that are in my generation. And I see guys that are younger than me go out and crush it, right? But like the percentage of people that I think take some type of pride or at least put effort into their fucking duties or tasks has shrunk considerably. I mean, is it just me? Am I becoming more cynical, or it feels like it's across the board?
Yeah, I think it's just a culture thing, man. I think a lot of it happened with COVID, and people realized that the shift of like, all of a sudden capitalism is a bad thing, and all of a sudden people should be paid to sit on their ass and explore their arts and hobbies and all this shit. And that would be nice, but that's not reality, And I think we're experiencing a snapback now where a lot of these people are reaching the end of the rope on their credit cards maxed out, their finances, and what they wanted to do, and this touchy-feely stuff is not working. And like, shit, I need to go back and really figure out how do I be good at what I do, right? Like my first job out of high school, or one of them was I was cleaning toilets. I was a janitor in a hospital, which is like disgusting. But
damn.
It wasn't good. Like, I was literally cleaning toilets, But I'm like, dude, if this is my job, like I'm gonna do the job to the best of my ability. It doesn't matter if it's literally cleaning fucking toilets or whatever. And even now in our office, like, I'm the one that goes around and like picks up a little bit of trash. Like I was just vacuuming our office yesterday just because it needed doing. You know what I mean? It's not. That's just kind of like, I think that nature versus nurture. I think part of it is an inherent trait that most people have, and I just like, you're putting your weights away at the gym. Like I just will always do that. Put the cart away, grocery shopping. Like that's just what I do. But I think a lot of people aren't that hardcore about it, and they're kind of on the edge of it, and they're like, well, I know I want to be a good person. I know this is
no one's looking
thing to do, but exactly. I'm just gonna let that slide. But the problem with that is like it's a slippery fucking slope, man. Yeah. And as soon as you let yourself slide a little bit, you're like, oh well, this not that bad, or this other thing, and then you make excuses, and then all of a sudden, your whole life looks completely different because you didn't want to do the slightly hard thing. It's everybody knows what the right thing to do is. They just don't do it because they can fucking get away with it. But yeah, culture shift is, thank God, the pendulum of culture is swinging the other way again. And I think we're going to see a resurgence of like, people actually taking pride in their jobs, being good at the shit. And I think like capitalism is it's a really good tool. It's a good barometer for merit. So like,
there seems to be, even in these giant corporations, there are kind of a lot of companies that are surprisingly like out of the blue, not without cause, but still out of the blue, moving away from some of the DEI and some of these other kind of fucking things, and like is going back to a meritocracy. I mean, like we just saw some DEI stuff.
Who would have thought giving people jobs because they're good at it was a bad, was a good idea? I mean, like that's
racist. You can't give them a job.
And the remote work thing too. You've seen a big shift away from remote work. Not that working at home is bad, but like, I mean, really, who would have thought doing your, sitting at home doing your job in your pajamas, you're not going to do as much work? That's just, that's crazy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think for some jobs it makes sense, but I mean, it depends on the role. Like with our company, the fulfillment side of it, because we do fulfillment for a lot of brands as well. Obviously, you can't do that from home, but the fulfillment team has a very different mentality from like our HQ team, which does like all the, some digital services and like some creative services, and like they're more on like a normal office environment setting. So we work from home 1 day a week, but they go to our house because we realize when we're all working remotely, dude, the communication, it slows. It's so hard to solve problems when somebody's got to set up a Zoom call, somebody's got to do a phone call. When I can just pull a door open and be like, hey guys, here's what's going on. What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? Okay, here's the solution, and then apply the solution. Like the speed of execution is so much faster when we're in person. But also we're trying to be flexible and allow them a good quality of life, and allow them to work from home, even though it's our home. But
we
it's fun
noticed
for
that
them
too. Like bringing people in the office too. Like we have a very unique culture here, but you see that kind of divide with it. 'Cause we have sales guys and marketing guys that are out of state. I mean, they don't even live here. Including them, and sometimes they feel separated from it themselves. They're like, we feel like outsiders. And like trying to incorporate them into the culture is harder if they're not in the building. Like for all the jokes and the bullshit that goes on here. It brings everybody together.
A key thing.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing if you have people that work remote, especially if they're not even local. To keep it's a battle to keep your company culture alive. Not all companies have.
I don't know how
cultures
people
like
do
we
it,
do.
to be honest. Like I don't know how you do this stuff remotely. Like have a culture and enforce it, and like have people like that give a shit factor is hard. It's hard enough to get people to give a shit when you're in person, but remotely it's I don't know how people do it, man. I mean, we got a pretty small team here, so it's fairly easy to keep the finger on the pulse of everything. But yeah, large company working remote. I mean, maybe that's why they're going away from it, because shit don't work.
Yeah.
No, well, my wife works from home, but she's the top salesperson in her entire company, and they're a huge, they're a $1 billion medical software company, but I would say she's the anomaly. I mean, we have a sales guy here that works with us that I would claim is like kind of the anomaly. But again, it comes back to what we were talking about with whatever it is that makes a dude somehow grit it through buds, or whatever it is that makes somebody successful. Like there is probably a sense of conquest or a stubbornness or some type of drive to do what you set your mind to, like whatever that is, man. Like and so I would imagine that the people that are successful working from home are, I bet the ratio is similar to just people who are successful in society in general. If you have whatever that thing is, you know what I'm saying? Like now I would imagine that for everybody else that does not have that drive or that trait or that innate desire to conquer, it probably exasperates the mediocrity. That's probably what it does. It probably exasperates the mediocrity. Now, if you're the anomaly, I think you're going to be fine no matter where you go. If you're not that guy or that person, then working from home is probably not going to inspire you to hit more.
You have to find something that fits with your nature. And so I was arm's length from a lot of team guys for years, and up until recently, we're working with the Seal Future Foundation, SFF here, and they've been our client for a long time, but I never went to any of their functions. And I started to go to them and talk to them about stuff, and it's been a major shift, man. Like, cause like the culture in the teams for a long time was very kind of like, oh, don't get out. Oh, you're a pussy if you get out. Oh, you're doing anything at all. It's like, oh, that's terrible. You're prostituting the trident. Everybody just talks shit. It's like that crap out mentality. But now wars are winding down. A lot of people are getting out, and they're like, dude, they're trying stuff on the outside and they're failing, and they're like, fuck, man, like this shit's hard. How do I do this? So now that the culture in the teams is a lot more open to learning. And so now I've been like working with them, and we're putting together like little groups of entrepreneurship stuff but the problem is a lot of team guys, they look at like guys like me or Andy Arabito from Half Face Blades or Jocko, and they're like, oh, I should get out and be an entrepreneur. And I try to tell them, it's like, dude, unless you love getting punched in the fucking face every day, unless you love like the journey and the path and just like walking the path. If your goal is just make money, dude, you can get out and go make great money working for a company somewhere. Like a buddy of mine, great dude, team guy. He's got his master's in marketing, and he's struggling with this entrepreneurship stuff with like a fucking like cafe. I'm like, bro, go fucking take your master's degree and your background as a team guy and go make $400,000 a year working for some fucking big ass company, dude. Like if that's your goal. And I think a lot of team guys get, a lot of people in general, but just, you know, my little circle of team guys that I know personally, a lot of them have a very unrealistic idea of entrepreneurship, and they think it's going to be one thing, and they're not happy with it because it's not what they ultimately want. Like if they want money, go chase money. Don't be an entrepreneur. It's way harder, it's like way longer to get money. But if you want freedom and autonomy, and if you want to write your own schedule and control your own destiny, then yeah, entrepreneurship might be for you. But I tell all these guys, dude, like it's not what you think it is. It's its own thing. And also too, just for the general population, another comparison to buds is that if more people knew how truly hard entrepreneurship was, I think more people would have success with it because it wouldn't be a surprise, right? So like if you're getting into if entrepreneurship is like a UFC fight, you wouldn't come off the street untrained and just think you can go like knock somebody out in the fucking octagon, right? You'd be like, oh man, I'm probably going to get hit, and you know what to expect, and you train and you fight, and when you get the first time you get hit, you're like, okay, it's okay, you know, I'm not made of glass, I'm not going to shatter, this is just part of the process. But if you didn't know that and you just hop in the ring, first time you get punched, you're like, what the fuck is going on? You'd be like, bro, I'm out, like this is not what I thought it was. And Buds is that same way too, where I'm glad that Buds has the reputation of being so difficult because people know what to expect. And if they thought it was easy and they get there and it was so hard, they'd be like, bro, what? I didn't sign up for this. I wasn't expecting this. And they would have a much lower success rate with it. And entrepreneurship is the same way. It's hard.
Have you looked at the numbers?
I personally feel that it's harder than being a Navy SEAL.
Have you looked at the number of companies that will, like the percentage of companies that do not have $1 million in revenue? Like,
most of them, it's like 97%.
Right, and then you go like to 5 million, and then you go like to whatever, or how many companies don't survive the first 5 years or 10 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking at companies that have over $10 million in revenue, that have been around for X amount of time, you realize almost there's a lot of tenacity and just almost fanatical belief in what you're doing. There's a ton of fucking luck. And I do believe that there is a ton of luck, right? I mean, like, do you like Malcolm Gladwell at all, the author?
Oh yeah, love his stuff.
Yeah, me too, dude. I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell. If you read, I forgot, fuck, my mind's blank the name of this, but where he talks about, you know, like the age of Bill Gates, the age of Paul Allen, the age of these people, like, had they not have been born at the exact time, at the exact moment that they were, okay, and then lived geographically in the places that they were, like, could they have existed in that, and would that opportunity and that talent have intersected at the perfect time, right? And I believe a lot of entrepreneurship is the same way. It's where, like, yeah, you cannot detract from someone's intelligence or talent or tenacity or whatever, but that shit had to intersect with opportunity at the right time. Exactly. And if you could have fucking missed it by a month, a year, whatever, dude. Like, I mean, like, I think I'm very good at selling guns. I think I'm very good at explaining guns and like getting people excited about rifles. If I would have tried to start this business today, dude, or we would have tried doing it today, there's no fucking way it would have worked. Not with how throttled social media was, and not with like the cost of insurance, and not blah, 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 blah. So like the fact that we were able to bootstrap a gun company from nothing had everything to do with like we came into it at the exact right fucking moment, you know? Yeah. And that
timing is a huge part of it.
Well, there's a bit of luck, like the way we met, the way fucking just a lot of things happened in hindsight. You could never have planned that looking forward, you know? It only makes sense in hindsight. So to the thing of like we were saying about the entrepreneur, you and I have had many of these talks, you know, like there's no coincidence, right? But to back to your point to the entrepreneurial side, man, like when you start looking at just how many how many attempts are made, what those attempts typically manifest into, where the ceiling is on most of those attempts, dude. If you find yourself, having somehow survived that giant fucking filter, it is, go look at the math. I mean, you're talking in the fractional percentages.
Dude, and everybody, I almost lost my whole company 3 years ago.
Dude, we have survived a few fucking meteors, dude.
But that's what I mean. Is you read these books where Elon and Bezos and Jobs and Phil Knight from Nike, and every single, great books, every single one of them has a story about them almost going out of business multiple times.
Yeah.
And if you talk to any entrepreneur that's been in business longer than probably 3 to 5 years, every single one has a story about almost going out of business. That's just what happens. You get punched in the face and a little bit of luck, a little bit of grit, a little bit of a network, and it's a lot of things, man. But it's a fucking fight, dude. And if you don't want to get in a fight, don't get into entrepreneurship, because that's really what it is. And there's no escaping it. This is just the path. This is the journey. And it actually made me feel a lot better reading those books from the big guys who run unicorn companies, and realizing they almost lost their businesses too. I'm like, oh, good. That makes me feel a lot better about not being such a shitty entrepreneur. It's just
but what I love there, man, is I don't believe in gambling at all. That's bad. I'm very anti. But what I love, dude, was listening to this like Elon Musk, to where all they had was enough money for one more rocket launch. That was it. I mean, that was it. And if it did not fucking fly, that was the end of that shit, dude. And just push all in. And Musk is probably a great example of brilliance, tenacity, and creativity, balls, and a lot of luck, dude. There's a lot of luck in there too, because I mean, when you go all in every time, all it takes is to lose one hand, dude.
Mm-hmm. So risky, dude.
But that's also the rewards, right? Either. But the rewards the reward is probably, the reward obviously reflects the risk, in the sense, dude. That's why he's the wealthiest guy in the world, because he has parlayed that into. Anyways, I love that stuff, man. I find it fascinating. I love reading about the titans of industries and history, looking at a lot of the great founders and people that have made the world a little bit different. Anyways, dude, I just, looking at the numbers, it's pretty thin up there, No,
I agree, man. And that's why I think dude, to be a successful entrepreneur is honestly as hard as being a team guy. Probably harder, to be honest. We're talking about the numbers. It's probably, by the numbers, harder or more rare.
Yeah. Dude, real quick, man, because we had talked before. What is your opinion, and this is totally changing gears, what is your opinion on this new tipping culture? Where you go and you buy a fast food, or I know you're not a big fast food guy or something, but we're it's gonna ask you some questions, and they turn the fucking pad around. Where the fuck did that come from?
Maybe I'm just too old school with this shit, but I just do what's reasonable, man. Like Disney and I get a pizza every Sunday night, and that's our thing. We Sunday's our day together, because we're all so pulled different directions during the week. Even though we work in the same office, we just annoy each other every day that we're here. So weekends together, and Sunday specifically is our time to, reconnect, go have fun together, or do something that's just us. And one of those things that brings us together is we always have pizza every Sunday night, and we watch, a series or a movie or whatever it is. We have a couple hours just us together and the animals. And I typically, she always gets mad at me because I tip, and I guess she doesn't tip on that. And but I tip $6 for 2 pizzas, because I think that's reasonable for somebody's going to drive around and bring us the stuff. But by the numbers, that's, I think, sometimes 10% or something. And it's, I don't know, man. I just tip whatever's reasonable. And if they seem to give a shit, but typically I just had coffee the other day, and I bought, coffee for the team. It was plus some food. It was $28. But they just didn't give a shit. It was Starbucks, and they didn't care, and they're not doing anything. And I was going to tip a little bit, but the minimum amount I could tip was 20%.
Yeah, that's
It was
getting
either 20 or
ridiculous.
25%, and I tried to click the button to like, I'll give them like $3, and I couldn't click the button. I'm like, fuck you guys, then you get
But
nothing.
that, but,
You
see,
know?
but that, yeah. So this is why I've noticed this creep, like this kind of creep. So like, and again, I don't remember it ever existing before COVID. Okay,
It
I
wasn't
remember.
as bad.
So like,
Yeah.
no, they're like, I over tip good service for a waiter. If you're a waiter, man, I over tip for good service because like that's kind of like the culture of that profession, right? I tip the my barber. I tip.
Yeah.
There were certain like interactions or transactions that have a historical tipping
Yeah,
tradition,
traditional tipping.
traditional
Right.
tipping there, right? What I'm talking about is when like before, if you went, I'm in the airport waiting for a flight, dude, and you go like the pretzel place, dude, whatever, like you buy a damn pretzel. There before there was never a time that was a simple transaction. You're purchasing something, they're handing it to you. That's it. Like there's no work involved other than the actual work of the transaction, which was always kind of expected, right?
Right.
And then like it's going to ask you some questions. And then I noticed it go from like 10, 15, 20 to the questions started being 15, 20, 25. Then like
Dude,
the
right.
questions are like, dude, you're asking me a question you really don't want the fucking answer to, bro. Like, this thing is like I'm going to ask you some questions.
Dude, I've
What-
seen
what
them
the fuck are
25. I've seen them start at 25, like 25, 30, 35. And
I mean, that's pretty
Right.
great, but for things that have never had a historical tipping type of context, like I don't know where that came from, and I don't know how you ever go back.
I mean, we were both
Well,
just.
I think if it's reasonable, I'll do it. Like if I'm, buying a book or a magazine or some junk or whatever at like the these little kiosks or stores in airport.
Hudson News thing, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, if it's already set up and it's easy to do like $1 or something, like, yeah, cool, whatever. I'll have $1 if it helps you out and like whatever makes me feel good, I'm like, cool, whatever. But if it's like, and if they're nice too, if they're just like being shitty, I'm like, bro, you're not getting anything. But if it's unreasonable and it starts, like you said, at like 20%, I'm like, dude, that's about a sandwich in a magazine, bro. And you didn't do anything except bring it up. I'm not giving you 25% on that. So I look at it as like, is this a reasonable expectation or not? And if it's not, I just don't do it. And
Did you notice
I've never had anybody like get mad about it. I'm just like, bro, whatever.
in Ireland, because we were both just recently in Ireland over there, like they don't,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
they don't
yeah.
even expect
Missed you
tips.
by like 2 days.
Yeah, it's not even on most of the receipts. Like it's just, I mean, you still tip, but it's kind of up to you. Like they're not asking you
Well,
for
the
it.
service is fucking terrible there, dude.
Well, that's
It
part
was
of it too,
really,
yeah.
Well,
I
like
haven't been to another country in a long time, but it was really eye-opening to go to Ireland. Beautiful country, and obviously not a third world country. And I thought it'd be, really similar to American culture. Everybody's going to do a good job just because they want to do a good job. No. Dude, it was not that. It was probably like 10% of the places had like decent, like good, what you'd expect in American service. And like one or two places we went to were like above and beyond. They were literally just fantastic. Some of the best places I've ever been to. But dude, it really made me realize how different America is. And because I hadn't, when I was in the military, most of the countries I went to were complete shithole countries. So you don't expect anything. You know what I mean? Hanging out in Djibouti, you're not really expecting a whole lot from the local
Like you're like
populace.
like how would you like your rat, sir? Like what?
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, but Ireland was different, man, and like it was so frustrating, and like I almost got into some altercations with people there because I'm like, they wouldn't change our room around, and I'm like, what do you mean you won't let us change rooms? And like, well, if we can do it. I'm like, what do you mean if you can do it? Just check, bro. Like this isn't.
Yeah, you're handing me a
what the fuck are
key.
you
It's not
doing?
that
My
hard.
friend's having a wedding here. We got a whole big block. Like you saying you can't even check this one. Like very reasonable thing, and they wouldn't do it. But that was like a lot of places were like that. Super like terrible, and it really made me realize like, holy shit, America really is very different culturally from a lot of places. Even any random business you go to in America, they're generally going to be nice, regardless of tip. They're generally going to be nice because they want to succeed. They want to do well. They want to get a bigger house. They want to send their kids to college. They want to get a bigger car, whatever it is. And you call it capitalism. Oh, capitalism's bad. Dude, capitalism is what makes people strive for more, and there is limits to it. Like unchecked capitalism is, not good. And then you get the robber barons and all the other bad shit that comes with that. But dude, people underestimate how truly different America is. I know I did because I hadn't been overseas in a long time. And dude, it was really, really astounding to me how apparent the difference was when I went there and then when I came back. I called it our American appreciation tour.
Well, they don't expect tips because they're all assholes.
They were, man. I'm like, dude, I was really surprised.
Well, in some Europe, like, I mean, I know, like, in some of the European countries I've been to, like France, for example, which that culture is fucking done, dude. Like, if you, I went to France like 20 years apart. Like, there was at one point there was like a French and Parisian type of culture there, like the cuisine, the people, the fashion, it was actually like it was France, and then specifically Paris is Parisian, right? 20 years later, you go back and it is North Africa, dude. It is, you know.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's completely
it's racist to even talk about it.
Well, no,
so
but
nuts.
it's been well diluted. But one of the things, as far as in the vein of like the tipping, to be a waiter in France, like you have like a degree in waiting, right? I actually went to school and you're classically trained to be a waiter, and they pay you like actual wages, right? Like you actually get paid like a wage for a trade, you know, that's your trade, you know? And so they don't expect a tip because they're getting paid as, you know, like this is your craft and you get paid, and tipping becomes almost a gesture. I don't know if this, I mean, I don't remember Ireland. When I was in Ireland, I had a bucket list thing. I wanted to try to get cut off at a bar in Ireland because I thought that'd be like fucking hilarious, and I realized that it is impossible. It is not physically fucking possible to get cut off in a bar in Ireland. It's not like they will serve you until you die. You could vomit, you know, on the bar, and they will keep serving you. There's not a way to stop.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that too. I think the Republic of Ireland is a little friendlier, not like America at all, but like Northern Ireland and Scotland. And just the UK in general, they're a little more rude. Like that's just how they are.
Fuck them. Go America.
That's why we had the war.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, dude, it has been fucking great catching up, man. I actually miss you a lot, dude. It sucks that we have not hung out much. You know, you've been busy. I've been busy. Last time I saw you was at SHOT, which, dude, we need to get together soon, man.
And you come down and do another one in person, another podcast in person.
Yeah, for sure. I still every time I have a cigar, I take that cutter that you got us at that cigar lounge.
Yeah.
I always tell that story, and people are like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Oh, bro, that's just one story."
Dude,
yeah,
no,
this guy.
like 2 weeks ago, I was talking to the attorney from the Firearms Policy Coalition, and I'm like, "Have you ever partied so hard you got a state penal code rewritten?" You know, and like I gave like the ultimate, just like the by far most watered down CliffsNotes version of that night. Like the next time you're on here, we should probably tell the real story.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, I can tell you a story about how we partied so hard in Thailand we got kicked out of the entire country. It was kind of funny. You can kicked out of the bar, but have you been kicked out of the country? That's a whole different level.
Hey, man, you're thinking in the next couple of weeks you might come down?
Yeah, we got some time. It's perfect time of the year for it too. So things are rolling well here, and we have more free time than we normally do. So yeah, probably next couple of weeks I'll shoot you a text and let you know. But yeah, it'd be awesome to catch up, and yeah, maybe next time we'll do a podcast about the the other side of entrepreneurship, the fun part.
Jeez.
Hey, brother, it's good to talk to you, man. Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks a lot, everybody. Check out. Are y'all selling Industry Threadworks? I mean, are y'all? I don't even know. Y'all have a website where y'all sell stuff?
Yeah.
Or is all
we're
B2B?
full on like retail brand now. So there's a lot of cool stuff we got. It's pretty fun, man. It's all the cool shit that I want. I'm like, fuck, I think this is rad. So if people think it's rad too, then hell yeah, I'll be.
Yeah, everybody go check out Industry Threadworks. Check out solgw.com. You know, we're getting more stuff up on the website. And
by the way, go follow Ryan's Instagram. It's Invictus5326. Invictus5326, man. And if you're into entrepreneurship or if you just like cool shit, go follow Ryan. You're one of my favorite pages, man. You know, I'm not just saying that.
Well, I like to talk shit on the internet. That's how we met.
That's how we met,
dude.
dude.
Tell that story in the next podcast.
Hey, next podcast, we're going to tell some pretty fucking horrible stories. All right, man.
Thanks for coming on, buddy. Later.
All right, good to see you guys. Later.
Thanks for joining us today right here at the Liberty Tree Studio. But be sure to visit us at solgw.com for hard-use blasters, badass swag, and much, much more.